is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it.
Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. Well, our Philadelphia Union have officially kicked off the 2021 MLS season with a 0-0 draw against the Columbus Crew. Now, I know that compared to other MLS scores from around the league, this game was boring for some fans, or maybe some fans think that the Union left some points on the table. Well, we'll dive into that here in a little bit. But before we get into the news from around the league, my thoughts on the game, and yes, Blunder of the Week is back again. 2 years in a row, Blunder of the Week is back. Can't wait for you guys to hear that. I just want to say thank you to every single person who listened to this podcast, whether it's one time, every single time, 10 minutes they listened to the podcast and that was it. Well, I finally made it to episode 100. Now, no, this episode, there is nothing crazy planned for episode 100. I know if you guys followed me in the past when I was podcasting, when I got to episode 100, I think me and my old co-host Tyler, I think we did something special for that episode. I forget exactly what we did, but we did something. No, it's not going to happen this time, right? Because let's just get into the MLS season. Like, we've all waited here for a long time, and it's just crazy to think that people find this podcast interesting. Maybe you don't to listen to, or whatever the case may be. You turn in, you listen to the podcast. Like I said, whether it's one time, 10 minutes, you listen to every single episode. I mean, this podcast started in November of 2019, but I don't think I started talking about games until last year's MLS is Back tournament. And now, finally, it looks like we're going to get a full 34-game schedule. I'm super excited to just talk about every single game, preview every single game, bring on different guests throughout the year, and who knows what else I have planned, whatever else comes about. It's just crazy, right? 100 episodes, and yeah, things didn't go the way that any of us thought last year with COVID being a thing. I thought last year we'd have a lot more games to talk about, and yes, like after deciding to start this podcast near the end of 2019, I was like, this is great. Like, this is perfect timing to start a podcast, go into a brand new season, and yeah, it didn't really happen the way that I imagined. But look, 2021 is here. Like I said, we saw the Philadelphia Union draw against the Columbus Crew 0-0, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think, this year. And like I said, I can't wait to see what 2021 has in store for myself in this podcast. But like I said, we do have a lot to talk about. We do have MLS news. I do want to talk about my thoughts on the Columbus Crew Philadelphia Union game. I want to get into Blunder of the Week. But if you guys were listening to last year when I first started doing these review episodes, you guys would know that I start with the news. So let's go ahead and get straight into the news. So starting off, this might annoy some Philadelphia Union fans because it is reported that Minnesota United are close to signing League One side Rennes striker Adrien Hunou for a fee of $3.6 million, according to French newspaper L'Equipe. Now, like I said, why would this annoy Philadelphia Union fans? Well, it's another team spending money, right? $3.6 million, it's a good amount of money for MLS side, especially a team as young as Minnesota United. It seems like Minnesota, after they had a great showing last year in 2020, it seems like they're on their way to continue to get better. And look, it's episode 100, right? I don't want to be too negative. It sucks, right? It sucks seeing other teams, especially newer teams like Minnesota, just occasionally throw out millions of dollars on new signings while, Union fans want to see see the Union splash the cash, especially when we know they have money from the Brendan Ernst and Mark McKenzie sale. But look, I've been saying it for the whole time, so I'm not like, I accept it. I never thought we would spend all $12 million on players and everything, but I still think that there's fans out there that believe that once we got $12 million for Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie, I feel like they thought that, yeah, all $12 million was going to go towards new players. It's not going to work like that. But yeah, it is disappointing from a Philadelphia Union perspective that just another team that's spending money when we want to spend money, but as of right now, we're not spending it. But let's go on to the next point, which is Kenneth Vermeer, who was the former goalkeeper of LAFC. Why do I say former? Because the club and Kenneth have both mutually agreed to terminate his contract Friday night, which helped LAFC become roster compliant with their international roster spots. We're going to remember Vermeer because he got beat. He got beat by that Jacob Glesnes missile of a free kick. Last game before everything shut down, I know Maurice Adu said in the Union's broadcast during the Columbus game, he's like, yeah, Jacob Glesnes, he shut down the league with that goal. And yeah, did Jacob ever. And I guess for Kenneth, he's going out of MLS with his most notable play being that free kick that Jacob Glesnes scored against him. I thought Kenneth was surely going to be LAFC's number one goalkeeper, but, you know, unlike Inter Miami, LAFC want to follow what MLS has in place. And, you know, they had one over international roster spot, and I guess instead of them trading for a spot, they said, yeah, we'll just go ahead and cut Kenneth, and now they are compliant with MLS's rule. And speaking of being compliant with MLS's rule, now we're not going to talk about Inter Miami, which I guess we could talk about Pellegrini getting bought out and then getting loaned out to the USL 1 side, Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, it's a mess. See a young, promising Argentine winger in Pellegrini get punished, basically, because Inter Miami had no clue what they were doing with DPs. I mean, that's not Pellegrini's fault at all. It's the clubs. They had too many DPs, and, well, they wanted to keep Pizarro, they wanted to keep Higuain, and they wanted to keep Matuidi. And so Pellegrini's the odd man out, and now he gets loaned to a USL 1 side, which there's reports saying that he won't play at all for Fort Lauderdale, that once the summer transfer window opens up, that he'll be sold to another club. But yeah, just what a mess it is down into Miami. And in the process of trying to get a journalist that covers Inter Miami on, and maybe he or she can talk a little bit more about the Pellegrini situation than what I've read about it. So hopefully the next episode you guys hear, we'll have somebody on that covers Inter Miami, because it's always good when you have somebody that covers a specific team. But what I was going to talk about being roster compliant, during the game, during the Philadelphia Union and Columbus Crew game, there was a bombshell that announced on social media that Skylar Hoffner, who is a writer for Philly Union Nation, he was doing some diving and everything on the Union's website and noticed that Matej Oravec was listed as loaned out because, as we know, the Union had over the amount of international roster spots MLS allows. And yeah, the Union could have went out and bought a roster spot, which, you know, they can still wind up doing. But it said that Oravec was loaned out. Nobody in the club mentioned this. And nothing's official yet. But I just want you guys to hear Jim Curtin's comments when Jonathan Tannenwald brought this up.
Yeah, we obviously, you know, like every team in the league, have to be compliant going into the season, and yeah, we're compliant right now with our international spots, and yeah, you know, happy with where the group is at. You know, the rules are in place; you have to obviously abide by them, and yeah, everybody that was available today to play was here for us and on the field. Obviously, we'll be getting a couple guys back from injury. You guys can do the math and add up the slots, and whether we need to purchase one or whatever might be coming in the future, will take care of itself. But overall, yeah, you know, the team is kind of, you know, set moving forward. It's not official yet, so
Okay.
I don't want to announce that publicly. Sorry, Jonathan. I hope you could respect that. I'm not hiding anything. I just also you just heard me tiptoe around it for a minute, so I think you understand. I can't say that without the proper paperwork and all the different things that are going on.
So yeah, obviously, the Union are working behind the scenes to loan Oravec to whatever club. There's people talking on Twitter, myself included, that were like, well, can he be loaned out to U2? And I was like, yeah, I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, like that can't make sense, right? Because U2 doesn't have a proper league. So how can you loan a player to a team that doesn't play in a league? It makes no sense. It would be like all of us listeners starting up a soccer team in the Casa League, and the Union sending Matej Oravec to go play with us. Like, yeah, we're not an official team. We're not in a proper league. Like, it doesn't work that way. So, obviously, we're going to hear something from the Union in the next coming days where Oravec is going to be playing. But, man, a guy that had such high expectations for, all because he misspoke and said sexy season, and that got everybody excited for his signing. I mean, look, this is a number 6, a defensive midfielder. There's no reason all of us should have been so excited for a defensive midfielder. But yes, because he said sexy season, all of us get so excited. We can't wait to see him in action. And we saw him score 1 goal against Inter Miami in the preseason, and he's yet to play a single minute. It looks like he might not ever play for the Philadelphia Union. And just what a signing sexy season has been for the Union. And just keep your eyes peeled on that, where sexy season might end up. But let's go on to point number 4, or I guess 5, since I talked about Inter Miami, even though I didn't plan on it. The Redbulls, everybody's favorite team, are close to signing Polish striker Patryk Klimala from Celtic, according to Celtic's manager John Kennedy. Now look, the source doesn't come better than the coach saying, yeah, we're about to sell this player to so-and-so team. So there's another player that Red Bull are adding one to the roster to try to strengthen the roster. And we've been seeing, look, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but like ever since Kasper has had his big season in 2019, scoring 15 goals, we saw Chicago Fire go out and sign a Polish striker. We saw, I believe, even though they're not in the league yet, Charlotte either signed a Polish striker or they were in talks to sign a Polish striker. And now we're seeing the Red Bulls go out and sign a Polish striker. Like, now all these teams want a Polish striker because, what, Kasper scored 15 goals in the season? I mean, that might not be the reason, but I don't know. I do think it's weird that Kasper has a big season. Now all these teams want to go out and sign a Polish striker. So who's going to be the next MLS team that signs a Polish striker? You know, Inter Miami would love to bring in Robert Lewandowski down to Miami. I mean, can you guys imagine Lewandowski in MLS? I remember when Charlotte was announcing the Polish player they were signing, people were like, is it really going to be Lewandowski? Can it be Lewandowski? No, it was not Lewandowski. And Lewandowski has a few more years to play at the top level in Europe before he decides where he wants to go and retire. But no, it is not Lewandowski. But let's go on to point number 6. Columbus Crew midfielder Aiden Morris suffered a torn ACL in their CCL match against Real Estella, which rules him out for the season. Now look, again, we're not Columbus fans, but to see a young player like Aiden Morris, who stepped up in the biggest game, you heard me talk about this with Chris Doran last episode, in the biggest game of his career to fill in for Darlington Nagbe, who was out injured against the Seattle Sounders in MLS Cup. To see him perform so well in that competition, in that game against Seattle, this guy had a big 2021 lined up, and to see him just a freak injury, tears his ACL, lands awkwardly, and blows out the ACL. It's a huge blow for Columbus. It's a huge blow for Aiden himself, and I would say for MLS, because we want to see teams be at their best. We want to see teams be at full strength. We never want to see the Union go against teams where they don't have their best 11 on the field, because if that's the case, then fans of those teams are just going to make excuses. Oh, well, the only reason you beat us and the only reason this happened is because so-and-so was out injured. So, yeah, we love to see players be fully fit. We love to see teams be fully fit. And for Columbus, they're going to be without Aiden Morris for the rest of the season. But let's go ahead, guys, and talk about the Columbus Crew versus Philadelphia Union game. Like I've said, that game ended 0-0. And after a slow first 10 minutes from the Union that saw Andre Blake make 2 saves, the Union, the first chance came in the 12th minute off a corner kick that saw Jack Elliott had the ball high and right of the net. And then in the 18th minute, which saw the Union's best chance of the first half, and you could argue it was the Union's best chance of the night, Kasper Schmeichel was unmarked on a corner kick, had a ball headed straight towards goal, but Eloy Room saved the ball comfortably and kept this game scoreless. Look, it doesn't get better than that, and we saw Kasper score a goal against Saprissa in the second leg. I don't know, maybe Kasper's working on heading the ball in the offseason, because in these last couple games, he's been getting on the end of some crosses, and we love to see it. We love to see it. Look, he even scored a headed goal against Saprissa in the first game. So he has 2 headed goals, could have had 3 against Columbus. So you love to see the Union just finding 6'4" Kasper Schmeichel, whether it be on crosses, whether it be on corner kicks, whether it be set pieces. But regardless, he was unmarked and couldn't capitalize. And then 16 minutes after the Union had that chance with Kasper, Columbus would follow up with one of their own chances. Star player Lucas Zelarayan in the 34th minute lasered a long-range effort that nicked the crossbar and went out for a goal kick. In the 38th minute, that probably was the best chance of the night for Columbus. It looked like they were going to have a penalty kick because Pedro Santos was fouled right outside of the box by Jacob Glesnes, but on the field, the referee pointed to the spot because he thought that Pedro Santos was fouled in the box, but the call was later reversed by VAR, showing that Santos was actually fouled just outside the box, which then led to a yellow card for Jacob Glesnes. And then I know after the game there was talks that VAR was actually looking at, is it a red card or not for Jacob Glesnes? Luckily it wasn't. It was just a yellow card. Lucas Zelarayan hits the ball right at Andre Blake, and the Union escape. Both teams go into halftime, we know, tied 0-0, even though the Union, I would say, were the better team. After a slow first 10 minutes, the Union completely dominated the rest of the first half. They had 8 shots compared to Columbus's 6. The Union had 56% possession of the ball compared to Columbus's 44, but as we know, nothing could separate these two sides. They had a couple chances and went in scoreless. And then after the break, we saw no changes from either side. We continued to see just the hard tackles flying in from both of these teams. Just an intense match from both of these teams. And look, the Union had another chance off of another set piece by Jumir Monteiro, who found Jacob Glesnes' head, who then laid the ball off to Ali Bedoya, who hit the post, beat Eloy Room, and the Union could have won out 1-0, but no, Union couldn't capitalize on a couple of the chances they created. Columbus, they had one last look in the game in the 83rd minute, in which Columbus, they'd won yet again another free kick. Zelarayan would send the ball into a dangerous area, which was headed away poorly by Ali Bedoya, in which the ball found Ator. And then we know it forced a strong save from Andre Blake. Now, there's a quick summary for the game and everything, but I do want to get into my thoughts, just, some good, some bad. And I will start off by saying, point number one for the good, the Union, they've kept 3 clean sheets now in all competition. Andre Blake continues to be Andre Blake. He had 6 saves in this game, and look, if this was any other team, I feel like they would be talking about just the saves that Andre Blake made against Columbus Crew last night. We've come to expect this from Andre Blake. He's the best goalkeeper in MLS. It is crazy that he hasn't left the Union yet to go play his soccer overseas. Now, we know the whole thing with Jamaica and the whole where's Jamaica on the FIFA rankings, and yeah, that mess is all over my head, and so I'm not going to get into that. But look, we're not complaining. We have Andre Blake. He saved us all 3 points last night. He got us a point last night. And this is what I was talking about with Chris Doran. And when I was doing my predictions, look, we know Andre Blake's good enough to save us 6, 7, 8, 9 points. I counted last year that he saved the Union with some of his saves. So Andre Blake just continues to be Andre Blake. He looked comfortable in the goal, and the Union, we'll take that. We'll take that every single game. Andre Blake just being Andre Blake. Sergio Santos, I thought was really impressive in his 32 minutes versus Columbus. Especially towards the end of the game. I think that's when Sergio started finding rhythm, he started finding his feet again. He dribbled past Jonathan Mensah super easily in stoppage time. And unfortunate, wasn't able to score. Forced a good save from Eloy Room. I thought Sergio Santos was good in the air. He's a physical striker too. And we saw Columbus's defenders struggle a little bit defensively with just Sergio using his body, throwing his body around. And yeah, I know, when was it? 60-something minute. I didn't write it down. Sergio Santos got a yellow card because he kicked the ball away angrily after a foul was called on him on Josh Williams, which it's so crazy. That is one of the things that annoy me the most. Is seeing defenders go down so easily against strikers. There is no reason that Josh Williams should be pushed off the ball, flying in the air, making the most of it by Sergio Santos. I hate it. I hate seeing defenders flop so easily, go down so easily when a striker's going body to body. Like, it's all fair. It's strength against strength. And when a defender gets bodied out by a striker, more times than not, the referees call it. It's a joke. And Sergio should have done better and not kicked the ball away to get the yellow card. But I agree with Sergio. It was not a foul at all on Josh Williams. And look, like I said, just Sergio was dominant in this game as the game went on. He started slow. 32 minutes against Columbus. You know, he's getting his fitness up. And will we be able to see him start against Inter Miami? I guess we'll see what Jim Curtin says in his midweek press conference. I would assume, because Sergio got 32 minutes against Columbus, maybe we see Sergio Santos go 45 minutes, get the start against Inter Miami, go 45 minutes, and then they sub him out. Or maybe he's fit enough to go a little bit longer. We shall see. Point number 3, though. The Union, I thought, just talking about those set pieces, those corner kicks that the Union had, I thought the Union were really good on set pieces on the night. Casper was unmarked, like I said, in the box for a header. The Union found the mismatch between Jacob Glesnes and Artur a couple times, which is so crazy that Columbus would have a smaller midfielder in Artur marking Jacob Glesnes on corner kicks or on set pieces. And Jameer Montero found Jacob Glesnes a couple times on this. Like I said, the Union were unlucky not to have scored with Ali Bedoya when Jacob Glesnes put the ball across the box for Ali. But we love height. You have Jack Elliott, you have Jacob Glesnes, you have Leon Flock, who's 6 foot, which is pretty tall for a midfielder. Ali Bedoya, we know, can get up there for headers. Of course, you have Kasper Schmelzer, who's 6'4". The Union have a lot of tall players. Then you have, obviously, Stuart Finley that can come off the bench, add some height to your team in pace. That's going to be a mismatch, I feel like, for a lot of teams where the Union have players that are good in the air, that we've seen now in 3 straight games that the Union are creating chances with their crosses and on set pieces. This is something that we've not seen the Union be good at the last couple of years on corner kicks. Why do we need a corner kick? We've seen the Union go short a lot of times in the past, but more times than not, when the Union have a corner kick, they're putting the ball into the box because for whatever reason, the Union have finally figured out, look, we can be dangerous on corner kicks. And I'm not going to be surprised if we see the Union score a good amount of goals from corner kicks this season just because how successful they've been early on in the season. Point number 4, though, Jameer Montero was controlling the play from the number 10. He was fouled 3 times. He had 3 key passes, had 76% passing accuracy. He touched the ball 73 times. Look, I still personally think Jameer Montero is better at the number 8 than he is the number 10. But to see him really control the game for the Union at the number 10, he drew fouls. the Columbus fans were booing him a lot because he was getting fouled and they feel like he was on the ground a little bit too much. But look, when you have a smaller player like Jamiro Monteiro who's so clever at getting in and out of space, we saw him have a cheeky back heel down on the left side of the Union's defense. I believe he found Leon Flock. It's like, dude, how do you have this cheeky back heel? How do you do this? Like, he's so gifted technically. He is so small. He can get in the tightest of spaces and get out of them. We are so lucky to have a player like Jamiro Monteiro, and we did. Look, I will give Jamiro his credit, and I don't know how he feels, if he feels like he's more of a number 10 than a number 8, but that's back-to-back games now that Jamiro Monteiro has played very, very well in the number 10. I do like him more as a number 8, but when Jamiro controls the game, when he's drawing fouls for the Union in that spot, linking up well with his teammates, how do you take him out of the number 10 spot, especially when you have a player like Leon Flock who was just unbelievable. He was so unbelievable in this game against Columbus. And what's a little bit surprising to me is he's only been here for 3 weeks, and he started all 3 games, and Jim Curtin's already talking him up. And so if you guys haven't seen the quotes, or if you guys haven't heard the clip yet, I want you guys to hear what Jim Curtin had to say about Leon Flock.
I have to say, I thought Leon Flock was excellent all over the field. Does a lot of the little things that Ali Bedoya does that maybe don't show up always on the stat sheet. But in terms of work rate, recovery sprints, making a big block, getting out to deny service, overall, I'll be interested to see the ground that he covered today. For a 20-year-old kid, his soccer brain is as good as I've worked with for such a young player, and he's done a great job for us.
To give a compliment like Jim Curtin has just given Leon Flock, you guys just heard it. He said that Leon Flock has one of the best soccer brains that he has ever been around for a young player. That speaks so highly of how intelligent this kid is. And I know I saw some people complaining on social media about how, Leon's only one directional. He's not dribbling. Why does he need to be when he's linking up so well with Kai Wagner on the left side of the field? He has pace. He had 1 clearance on the night. He had 6 tackles, completed 76% of his passes. He had 1 key pass. What is there to complain about? Look, Jim Curtin's right when he said a lot of the stuff that Leon does, it does not show up at all on the stat sheet. But if you go ahead and look at the heat map for Leon Flock against Columbus, it was so red on the left side of the field. This guy was a constant thorn in the side for Columbus. And the pace of this guy, look, he is the equivalent of Ali Bedoya. And when you have a player that's 13 years younger than Ali Bedoya, but that does everything that Ali Bedoya does, that is huge to have 2 of those same types of players on the field at the same time. And it just seems like Ernst has yet again found another gem in the lower German leagues. And I know I said this before in the past, but honestly, I do think the Philadelphia Union need to consider giving Ernst his own statue outside of Subaru Park. Like, I know he's still here, and usually you give statues to people once they leave or once they die or whatever. But it is criminal that Ernst is able to find these players in the lower leagues around Europe, and they're able to come into the Union and contribute right away. And people think I'm crazy, right? People think I'm crazy to say, yeah, when Sergio Santos is healthy, that it's going to be Anthony Fontana going to the bench. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of how well Leon Flock has played in these last 3 games for the Union. And there's no reason to take away that starting spot from him. There's no reason. And yes, it is unfortunate for Anthony that he's not had the biggest impact playing as a striker. Well, he's not a striker. He's more of a number 10 than a striker. And so credit to Anthony. And yeah, when I give my bad, yeah, I'm going to throw Anthony Fontana in there. but it's not really his fault. He's not a striker. But Liam Flock, just unbelievable. Really, really, really unbelievable on the night. And I just can't believe it. I can't. I cannot believe that Ernst has found another player that none of us have heard about. And on top of that, an American player playing in the lower German leagues that is coming to Philadelphia and contributed right away. It's unbelievable. But like I said, let's go ahead into the bad. Like I just mentioned, Anthony Fontana, he's not a striker. It's not his fault. He only had 14 touches of the ball in 62 minutes played. He was constantly running out to the left and the right flanks trying to collect the ball. But to play 62 minutes to only see the ball 14 times, it's not a lot. It's not good enough. And I can't complain about it, really. I really can't. And I do feel bad about bringing it up because Anthony's not a striker. But hopefully Sergio Santos gets healthy. He can play 45-plus minutes against Inter Miami, like I said, hopefully. Hopefully we get Corey Burke and El Senior back on the bench for Inter Miami because Anthony Fontana, he just can't do it up top. Yeah, he can score, but his position is not as a striker, and I applaud Anthony for taking up the challenge, playing as a striker, but he knows it. We know it. He's not a striker, but on the flip side, he has 3 tackles on the night, so when he loses the ball or when he's pressing, he is winning the ball back for the Union. That is one thing that I can give Anthony Fontana credit for is we saw it last year. This guy's very, very aggressive. And the one big knock that I had on Anthony Fontana last season was sometimes he would get stupid yellow cards. He'd go in as soon as he would get subbed on and make a hard tackle, and the referee didn't like it. And so here's a yellow card for you, Anthony Fontana. Well, it seems like early on he's made up for those kind of challenges and had 3 tackles on the night against Columbus and resulted in the Union going back on the attack. So I do applaud Anthony Fontana for that. Point number 2, Mbaizo. I thought his crosses were a little bit inaccurate on the night. He was over 5 on his crosses. Now, that is a credit to Columbus for making the space tight for him. Him and Ali, I thought, did link up well on the right side of the field. But again, Columbus wasn't giving Ali or Mbaizo much to work with on the right side of the field. And I know the Union tried to find Mbaizo just making runs down that flank. And they found him a couple times, but we saw one ball. He just sends it out of play behind the net. And I'm like, come on, man, what are you doing? But I don't know. Like, I don't really think that's much of a complaint to Mbaizo as it is a credit to just how well Columbus were defensively on the left side of the field. And then the last thing, again, I really can't complain about this, but I will bring it up. Jim's sub choices. He mentioned that his bench is defensive heavy right now and that it hurts not having El Senior and Corey Burke available. And there is no denying that we do need more reinforcements. Hopefully the Union make a signing soon. Hopefully Corey Burke and El Senior can be on the bench against Inter Miami. But we shall see. We shall see. But guys, before we end this episode, I do want to get into Blunder of the Week. And if you guys are new to the podcast this season, Blunder of the Week is where I just pick something from the soccer world that's a blunder, whether it be an actual blunder from a game or just something that I think is absolutely ridiculous that's happening in the soccer world. If you guys have been following me since I first started podcasting back in 2018, or you've heard me mention in the past that I got into soccer in 2006 because of the World Cup between England and Portugal. So because of that, my focus was heavily on the Premier League and the Champions League. And by now, I'm sure everyone has seen the reports on the European Super League, which will replace the Champions League, it's looking like. Now, unless something drastically changes, which I think it could, but as of right now, it's looking like this European Super League's going to be a thing. And because of that, I do have a problem with this because I first started watching soccer because of the World Cup, and then my focus went to Manchester United. But to see this competition where you see Brendan Aarons and Mark McKenzie talk about, look, I want to go to Europe to play in the Champions League, to play against the best of the best. And now there's talks of a European Super League where the best teams in Europe might not even participate in the Champions League. Doesn't sit well with me. Now, look, what more can I say that pundits, players, fans, that they haven't already said? It's an utter disgrace that soccer has become more and more about money and less about the fans. Owners care more about their brand, their club, because it's a business for them. They don't care about the fans. All they care about is money. How can they get more and more money? We should have known that soccer in Europe was dying when we all started to accept that 50 to 60 million was the normal price for transfer fees, or when we see players go for 100 million plus. And players constantly being paid $70,000+ a week. Look, money has always been involved in soccer, and it always will be. But these greedy owners will continue. They will continue to milk it dry until they can't anymore. And I get it. These owners, they spent millions upon millions of dollars to acquire these soccer teams, so of course they want to make money off of it. But when you have something good, and you're like, we can make more money. Let's leave all the history that the people that have come before us have left on this club. When they want to leave that all behind, when they want to leave, how much fans have meant to the clubs, that's when I have an issue. But then on top of that, my problem is with all the Americans, all the Euro snobs that are anti-MLS, that are upset about this European Super League. You guys complain about pro/relegation all the time on Twitter about US soccer, how they need pro/rel. But isn't that essentially what this league is, this European Super League is? You complain about not having pro/rel in MLS, and it makes it so boring. But I haven't seen anybody on social media bring this up, that this European Super League is essentially no pro/relegation. How? You guys complain about, oh, it's so boring, this year after year, seeing the same teams play the same teams. But how is that not boring, seeing 12 teams get to this ultimate competition year after year, no matter how bad they play in their league, no matter how bad they might play in this competition? Oh, you're still going to be in this competition, no matter what. How isn't that boring for you guys? You guys say, oh, that's what makes MLS boring, but you guys aren't saying that, oh, it doesn't make this European Super League boring. You guys are complaining about the money, which you should be complaining about the money, that these teams, these owners want to leave the Champions League because they want to make more money. You should be complaining about that. You should be complaining about the owners being greedy. But I don't know how you can complain about pro/relegation with your soccer, but not about this league. It makes no sense to me. I am so proud that the Philadelphia Union are the number one team in my heart. I am happy that I have a team locally that I can support. And now I think more than ever, this is the perfect time for you Euro snobs to support local soccer. Look, is soccer in America perfect? No, but it's ours. It's in our own backyard. And for people to deny that, it truly blows my mind. It doesn't sit well with me at all. How you can support soccer in Europe like crazy. That's great. You're a fan of soccer because a lot of people in America don't like soccer. But it's so crazy to me, on one side of things, we have fans of MLS, of European soccer, and then on the other side of the spectrum, you have people that like soccer, but they can't stand MLS because, oh, it's MLS. There's no promotion relegation. It's so boring. The quality sucks. This is the best time to support local soccer, seeing what is happening right now in European soccer. This is the best time to get on board, whether you're a fan of the Philadelphia Union or not. Go ahead and pay attention to NISA. Go be a fan of USL, the USL 1, USL 2. It doesn't matter. Support local soccer, people. Stop complaining. Stop worrying about what's going on in Europe. Look at the soccer in your own backyard. This thing is growing. And yeah, look, soccer, look, I know in America, more and more people are going to fall in love with the sport the closer and closer we get to the World Cup coming to the United States in 2026. But why not start now? When things are looking so unknown over in European soccer, why not become a fan of MLS? Why not support local soccer here in the United States? Why not? Why not, people? But yeah, let's go ahead and end the episode on a positive note. We know the Philadelphia Union have Inter Miami, the home opener, the Union's home opener, this upcoming Saturday at 8 o'clock at Subaru Park. Like I said, hopefully I can get an Inter Miami person on here to talk about that whole Pellegrini mess, to talk about just the whole mess that is Inter Miami. And look, the Union picked up a strong point on the road against Columbus, which can be so vital. Now we don't have to play Columbus on the road anymore this season unless we meet in the CONCACAF Champions League or if we meet in MLS Cup. They got to come to Subaru Park now the next 2 games. And we know we've been a dominant team at home. And so to get a vital point on the road against Columbus, which is not an easy place to win, not an easy point to get, the Union got that point. So I have no problem at all with the Union's result against Columbus, and hopefully most fans feel the same way too. But if you guys like what you heard, if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, go ahead and follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Free Kick Pod. Go ahead and check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com. Wrote article, blog number 2. Go ahead and check that out. And wherever you get your podcasts, check The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. But guys, hopefully I will see you guys midweek to preview the Inter Miami game. That is, like I said, this Saturday at 8 p.m. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.